I have the pleasure of being joined today by two amazing individuals from an event called BeerOps. I'm joined by Katz and Stephen Wallace. I'll introduce them both separately. Katz is the founder and director of KK Consulting based in Melbourne, also the co-founder and a board member for Girls in Tech, which has been running for about 8 years, and is now up to nearly the first year anniversary of her tech circle, which we'll get into in a moment. Karen's also a public speaker and a career coach. Karen, great to see you. Thanks for making time to catch up with me.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here.
We're going to have a great conversation on a lot of great topics around the event and your organization, but let me just quickly introduce Stephen. We're also joined by Stephen Wallace. Stephen's the co-founder of an event called BeerOps, which has actually been running for over a decade, and he jokingly describes it as something he started when he was 15 years old, and look at the effect it's had on him. Stephen, great to see you. Thanks for making time to catch up with us.
Thanks for having me, Ted. Not saying that it's a stressful thing organizing these events, but there's a few grey hairs.
Yes, it's like if I win lotto, I won't tell you on it, but there will be signs. So folks, today we're going to have a quick conversation about BeerOps, what it is, where it fits into the market, what it brings to the community and the ecosystem around it as an event. We're also going to talk about where Karen Katz and her organization, both KA Consulting and her tech circle, play into that. Karen, I wonder if maybe you could just give us a brief 30,000-foot introduction overview to yourself and KK Consulting, and then we can sort of talk about her tech circle in more detail after that.
Absolutely. So KK Consulting is my little HR company, which turned 7 at the end of March. I joke that I'm now in grade 1, so I'm feeling particularly grown up. So we work across the spectrum of human resources, so generalist HR, career coaching and executive team building work, and recruitment for companies. My sweet spot, I guess, is in the technology and the professional services arena. And I really enjoy working with a variety of different clients, everything from small startups to multinational organizations. Yeah, that is me in a nutshell. With respect to my passion work, so as you mentioned, I was on the board of Girls in Tech for just shy of 8 years. And that was a global organization which at its peak was 60 chapters around the world. It was started by a lady called Adriana Gascoigne in 2009 back in the States. Unfortunately, she made a decision to shut Girls in Tech down in July of last year, rather suddenly on us. And the existing board of Girls in Tech decided, well, we still had work to do. We still loved what we were doing in terms of making a contribution to women in the technology sector. So we created her tech circle. So on the 10th of July will be our very first anniversary, and we are very proud of what we do and really passionate about making a real difference to women in this space.
It's amazing. I mean, to drive anything in that space for approximately 8 years in the first sense, and then bringing that experience and capability into a whole new project to continue that is just amazing. And as Stephen did, applauded you. Likewise, I think our entire audience will be extremely interested to learn more about that, which we'll dive into. You also do public speaking, and you're a career coach, I understand.
Yep. So certainly I take the opportunity to help out where I can. We run a number of different events through her tech circle. So standing on a stage has become very much second nature these days. Not afraid to grab a microphone, hopefully not boring too many people along the way. And with respect to the career coaching, I've had the privilege of working with a number of different people. And if you can make a small difference to somebody, then that's a big win.
Yes, it's. I haven't come across many people who are championing something quite as amazing as her tech circle, who aren't good at communicating and able to grab a microphone at any point in time and just communicate a good story. For folk who haven't heard of her tech circle before, I wonder if you could just give us a couple of minutes on what that is. Obviously, you've outlined kind of how it came about. Maybe just give us an idea of kind of what the overall remit of the project is and kind of where it fits into the world at large.
So we are a 100% volunteer-based, not-for-profit organisation, and we're about empowering women to unlock their potential, advance their tech careers through a really supportive community. So if we have sort of the values that we bring to the table are, empowerment, intentional bravery, and trusting unconditionally. And we do that through holding a series of events. We're very lucky to be supported by organisations who sponsor what it is that we do. and we hold events on their premises throughout the year. We started off in Melbourne. We permeated well and truly into the Sydney market. We've done work in Canberra, in Brisbane, and also in Perth.
Wow, that's amazing. We'll come back to it in a bit more detail in a moment, but I'd like to bring you in now, Stephen, to kind of, firstly, just a little bit of a get to know you, and then secondly, sort of talk about BeerOps. Firstly, before we sort of get into too much detail about your background and history, maybe just give us a brief sort of walk through BeerOps and the history of it, and then we can sort of fold in kind of how you got into that, because I think that there's a bit of a blend where if we introduce our audience to what BeerOps is and how it came about, we can then sort of make sense of kind of where, what drove you to create in the first place based on your background and career. But BeerOps, from 30,000 foot point of view, what is it? How did it come about? What's the history of it?
So 2014 or thereabouts, I was helping to run a whole bunch of different meetup groups with a bit of a novel approach at the time, which was being of service to the community first, with the rather selfish goal, of course, that I was hoping to try and get some work as a result of that as well. It's very, very selfish. Anyway, I was running a whole bunch of different meetup groups, getting pretty tired doing it. So I'm cutting a long story short. I pulled together a team progressively who all share similar paradigms. First, be of service, and it pays you, tenfold when it comes back. And I've been lucky enough to partner up with a whole bunch of people, and we've been running this little experiment called BeerOps now for over 10 years. And the whole concept, or the whole problem that we were looking to solve at the time, was that we had technical silos of people. There was data people in there was DevOps people, security people. Nobody was talking to each other. So we came up with this hypothesis: if we got somebody else to pay for a couple of beverages and maybe a slice of pizza, maybe we can help to break down those silos. And that's what we've been doing. It's grown arms and legs sort of ever since, really.
I love it. Yes, it's a concept that's been working for about 12,000 years through Southeast Asia, of sitting down with a beverage and a fireplace and having a chat and getting an online story. Walk us through your career path that sort of brought you to that point where that sort of became not so much a pain point, but just a challenge you felt needed to sort of be not so much solved, but driven through to get to the point where you brought everyone together. What were the key steps of your own background, your own career path, where you sort of got to the point where you realized that was even a thing that you felt needed to be solved, and then you went ahead and did solve it?
Yeah, so I was working as a contractor. Sorry, I was working as a permanent employee. Sorry, sorry, ex-boss. Love you lot.
Oops.
Yeah, so I was working as a permanent employee, and I knew that I was going to, be leaving permanent employment and going into, contracting. So that's what sort of drove me into helping, with the meetup.com people. We put together, as a result of pulling that team together, and it even shocks me even saying these numbers, but we have over 50,000 people in those groups. And here, here's the note, to anybody out there: if you do a little bit, a lot, it's amazing what the compounding effects are. So yeah, that's just one of the little secrets for growing that stuff.
I love it. And so, correct me if I'm wrong, but when I look at what BeerOps is, it's an event. It runs for a couple of hours on one particular day. There's a build up to it. There's sort of a follow through from it. There are 4 currently, which you announced the dates of, which I'll get you to run through in a moment. You've got them in Brisbane, you've got them in Perth. There's an event in Melbourne, and then I think at the end of the year wraps up in Sydney. Quickly, just walk us through the dates of those locations, if you don't mind, for our audience.
There's going to be a pause. There's going to be a pause here whilst I get the prospectus
That's
up.
okay. So you've got one coming up soon, which I believe is Brisbane. Is that right?
That's exactly right.
Yep.
We're
And then
moving
you've
on
got
the
Perth and
19th.
Melbourne quite close together after that.
Yeah, the 19th of June, I think, is the one that we kick off
Yep.
in sunny Bris Vegas, and then a week later, on the 1st of July, we're off to Perth, and then
Okay.
we've got a short break until we run the other 2 events nearer the end of the year in October.
Fantastic. And for our audience, wherever you see this video, whether it's on videon.com or our YouTube channel or any other social and digital platforms, we will have links and details to both Karen's organization, her tech circle, and of course BeerOps, and we'd love you to check them both out, and of course register early for BeerOps. So you've been running this for over a decade, and look at the state of you after starting at 15. Karen, I'll come back to you in a second, but I'm keen, Stephen, how did, I guess, her tech circle and Karen's organization come to be part of BeerOps, and then we'll sort of delve into what their involvement actually entails.
Yeah, that's a good question. So 10 years ago, when we first sort of started, we were doing all of the meetup groups. It was very, very, very obvious that there was so few females coming along to these events. And I have no doubt that there was lots of ladies doing lots of fantastic dev work. In fact, I was working with a lot of them, but nobody came out to the meetup events. And if you go to any of the conferences back there, it just never happened.
Right.
So we didn't really notice this so much, first of all, or we didn't make a conscious decision, Gerhard and I, that we were going to do something about this. Anyway, the line was drawn in the sand that, enough was enough, and we were going to try and do our bit, whatever we could, to try and help remedy this massively disproportional representation. And I was so lucky to hear references to this lady called Mama Katz. Who is this person? Anyway, Karen's name came forward. I said, no, I want to meet Mama. Her first name was Mama.
That's brilliant.
And through working with Karen, I have to apologize because we've skewed all of the industry statistics now. And I think the last time we had over 30% at each of our 4 events, and over 30% as a national average for female registration. So we're so in your debt for helping us to, to achieve that goal.
That is amazing. I mean, a lot of people put out numbers like 60-40 split, but the reality is when you go to a lot of these big, particularly tech conferences, that is never going to be the case. And that's something that we've really got to remedy. Karen, I'd love to get your take on kind of, what BeerOps actually means to you and your organization overall. And then at an individual level, when somebody from her tech circle community comes along to an event, what they look forward to, what sort of opportunity that opens up for them.
Look, on an organizational level, it's clearly exposure for us to a wider audience that we may not have had any exposure to previously. So that's a starting point in terms of the individuals that walk in the door. It's actually been incredibly beneficial for us to meet some of the sponsor companies because they weren't aware of us either. We've actually created relationships there with a view for like running events together with them. So it's been extremely beneficial for us on that level. But for every young woman that walks in there, or older one for that matter, who comes and meets us and has a chat to us and becomes a part of our circle, then that's a win. That is a massive win for us because we are offering them community that they didn't have beforehand. And we encourage all of our community to come along because there are job opportunities in that room in all 4 states. There are networking opportunities in all 4 states. And if there's one thing that a lot of women are not very good at, particularly your stereotypical introverted tech female, and that is networking. I mean, it's one of the benefits of her tech circle because we're a very safe space to grow your network. And that's what a lot of women enjoy coming along to our events have. But in that room, which can be quite overwhelming, firstly, they've got an anchor if they come and speak with us. But secondly, we will encourage them to go and speak to these organizations because at the same time, it's also helping them to develop their skills in terms of communication, in terms of networking, and basically their own personal growth.
No, I love that. Yeah, I've seen it myself in different ways over my own career when I've gone to, as you said, Steve, the likes of what were meetups before meetup.com came along, where I always felt more comfortable going to either a C program environment or a cybersecurity group together just to sort of meet birds of a feather. But I did immediately notice that it was very much heavy, lopsided on one side of the diversity tangent, as it were. But when we went and networked with other communities, particularly if it was a vendor-held event, it was easy to get lost because we were sort of just a one-off somewhere. So I started getting our groups to go along as communities, as I'm sure you do with her tech circle. And I'd love to put this to you as a question: is that if you're bringing your community to these events, as you said, you've not only got that sort of camaraderie and safe space, but what kind of value would you be looking for? Like if I was a member of your organization, as it were, and I was sort of to come along and join your community and go through that journey that you take them through with mentoring support. An event like BeerOps seems to provide a very broad platform leading up to the event, prior to the event, after the event, but also at the event to actually get there, go as a group, network, meet people, meet the vendors. What are some of the things that you would love your community within her tech circle to sort of her tech circle, it's a tongue tie, to look forward to for the event? Like, you know, from an engagement point of view, prior to the event, what sort of things could they look forward to be part of, and then what should they look for at the event, and then what should they take away from it? Sort of, what are those elements? If in an ideal scenario, if your members there at her tech circle were to be, you know, fully immersed in the BeerOps experience, what would your ideal experience look like before and after and during the event?
Look, I think that the best preparation is to have a look who's going to be there in the first place, do some research on those organizations, having a look at what jobs they've got open, because a lot of the women that come to our events are actually on the job hunt. Many of them have arrived from overseas, or they are foreign students, you know, doing their masters, and they're looking for their next job. So rather than go in cold, I would be encouraging them to have a look at who's going to be there in the first place. So I
Mm.
can walk up and I can say, you know, hello company, I understand that you're looking for a blah. I believe I'm qualified. You know, how can I best show up in terms of how I apply and how I interview? So really utilize the opportunity to maximize, you know, your opportunity, I guess, to be able to be successful with them. So that's the first thing. The second thing is just getting around to as many of them as possible. Let's be honest, a lot of them are giving away some great stuff. So, you know, and that is the motivation for a lot of people coming to BeerOps, is to see what it is that the companies are giving away. It becomes a bit of a challenge because at the Her Tech Circle table, we're actually selling our stuff because it supports what it is that we are looking to do in terms of our programs. So people get a bit of a shock when we go, actually, you have to pay for that. They're a little taken back when they come to us. That being said, we get incredible support from the BeerOps community when we do bring our stuff along. Um, but like very seriously, in the moment, it's really just, you know, meeting as many people as you can, coming along with your LinkedIn profile open on your phone, connecting your ass off, to put it
Yeah, yeah.
bluntly, um, so that you can leverage those relationships later on. That's what, you know, and we encourage everyone, you know, when you come to a Her Tech Circle event, basically we say, you know, your network is your net worth. Don't leave here without having made 10 new connections in the room. And
Love
at
it.
BeerOps, there is the opportunity to make hundreds if you push it hard enough.
Yeah, and I imagine, you know, a combination of sort of two sides of the coin, because you want to build your network in personal relationships that you may just build friendships with, as well as relationships directly with the employers or the vendors in the room as well. Stephen, two parts to sort of a follow-up with that. On the sponsor side, and there's obviously going to be an interest in having, you know, as much diversity as possible in the room, as much engagement that I imagine there's a great deal of interest in that from the sponsorship side of things, as well as the event overall from your part.
Yes, I think, you know, as a sponsor, there are so many value points that
Mm,
come out of BeerOps. You know, everything from, you know, brand awareness. If people want to come along and get a brand out there, it's just fantastic. There's like over 10,000 registrations per year for these events. There's a lot of people come through that door. So branding's fantastic. Karen's hinted at, you know, there are a lot of hiring managers in the room as well, which is great. But like, if you're looking for like co-founders, if you're looking to basically dig that network before you need it, right? I think Karen touched on that. But also, we've just had the most amazing experience helping with various charities along the way as well. So Kids with Cancer Foundation, it's such a privilege to be able to help those guys, you know, 60 grand or something like that in the last sort of 18 months or 2 years, which is
wow.
just fantastic. But also one of the things that just it brings a tear to my eye just about is seeing some of the team members who are you know, typically sort of introverted people, as Karen was saying, if they're devs, and then allowing them to get out of their comfort zone, up on stage and speak to 1,000 people on the microphone. What an awesome
Yeah,
experience. You
yeah.
know, what a ride for them to go on. It's wonderful.
It is. I'm always reminded of when our kids were little, we push them into sport and team building and all sorts of stuff, and it would take a little bit to get them on the field. But the moment they got on the field with their boots on and chasing a soccer ball, they instantly turned into a team player or chasing the soccer ball. You just had to get them there and get them on the field. And once they were going, and when I was last at one of your events and I had a great time, I missed it last year because I was overseas at another event. That struck me. The minute I walked in the door, people started coming up saying hello. It was a mixture of vendors and brands. It was a mixture of sponsors as well as individuals. And it was just great fun. And I think it took about 30 seconds for someone to suggest that I join them and go and get a beverage and something to eat. And I had a great couple of hours, and I was reluctant to leave. On the second part, Stephen, when you've got partners such as Karen and her organization, her tech circle, what's an ideal experience for them to sort of look forward to with regard to how to get the best out of your event? We've talked broadly about the event. Karen shared some great tips and advice around for her community to come along. In an ideal scenario, what's the best way to get the best value out of BeerOps, not just as an attendee, but also, of course, as a member of her tech circle?
I think having pre-event dialogue is a very important thing. That way, we can share exactly who's actually going to be there, which means that Karen can then propagate this down her network, as she mentioned before, to be able to expand that network through the actual vendors that are there as well.
Yeah.
Every little bit helps. So it's a case of making sure that you are well prepared, who's actually going to be there, make sure that you understand the format of the event, so you can plan for the correct amount of swag that you're going to be having on the table, because it all depends. Karen normally has some rather fantastic swag, so she's only got herself to blame if there's like a queue a kilometer long trying to haggle their way to get inside one of your hats.
I love it. I love it.
And yeah, and also to support us, on
Yeah.
social media, make sure that we're all spreading the love and the good feelings and the pictures, because everybody loves to see a good smiley picture of themselves after the event as well.
Oh, I'm a sucker for a good selfie. Well, to wrap us up, Karen, where can people find out more about you and her tech circle in particular and get involved, get on board, either sponsor and support you or join as a member and gain the benefits of being part of that amazing community?
Absolutely. So LinkedIn is your friend, both for Karen Katz and also for her tech circle. When the Girls in Tech was shut down on us, they shut down everything, including the 18,000 members that we had on LinkedIn. We've managed to claw back about 7,000 of them, but we clearly would like to grow that, and that's the best place to find things out. So her tech circle on LinkedIn, but also hertechcircle.org is our website. Plenty of information on there. We often get asked how people can join us as volunteers, but if you just want to know about the board, how things hang together, what events are coming up, both of those channels are the best place to find us.
Fabulous. In worst case, just search for Her Tech Circle on your favorite web search tool, or these days a Gen AI tool. Stephen, to wrap us up finally, BeerOps, where can we find out more information about it, and how should people look to get involved, either as an attendee to potentially register to come along on the nights, or to reach out and offer sponsorship and support, or even just volunteer?
Yeah, volunteering is, because all of our tickets sell out like super fast in a matter of hours, literally. There are a couple of ways that you can definitely make sure you're going to get a ticket, one of which is being a sponsor, but the second is by giving and being a volunteer. So just drop us an email to volunteer, singular, @beerops.io, and that will start that process. It's a very rewarding process as well. But yeah, going to, as Karen was saying, just following BeerOps on LinkedIn, and also have a look at beerops.io, our website. We've got a contact form. If you get your name in there, you will go onto our extra special mailing list and we'll be in touch.
Love it. Well, Karen, Stephen, it's been fantastic to spend some time with you both. We will have you back again and we'll be able to talk in more depth for each of the elements you both do. Stephen, I know we've got a lot of announcements coming up for your event. Karen, I'd love to get you back as a featured guest on our web TV show and podcast to get into the weeds of what HTC does and how people have either benefited historically or currently participating in. Folks, we will have links to both Stephen and Karen's profiles on LinkedIn. We'll have details of the events and communities websites, And wherever you see this video, you hold those links, whether it's on our video platform, YouTube, or social media. We would love you to reach out early, learn more about her tech circle, and reach out to Karen and either follow her or connect if there's an opportunity there. Likewise with Stephen. And as Stephen said, register early for each of the events. So we'll have details of those events for the Brisbane, Perth, Melbourne, and Sydney events as well that are spread out through the rest of this calendar year. And hopefully we'll see you all there. Register early, get on board. As Stephen said, join the conversation on digital social platforms. I'm sure there'll be hashtags out there as well for both of you. And Karen, Stephen, it's been great to see you. Thanks for making time to chat and share some of this around what you're doing with your organization and your event. And we will have you back again soon. But meantime, have a great afternoon and evening, and really appreciate you making time to chat with me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Des. Thanks, Karen.
Cheers.